Welcome back to Seize the Gap Fantasy Football. I'm Magnum Mills, and I'm here to help you seize the gap and stop being so inefficient, be it in your fantasy leagues, over on Draftkings, with your wagers, whatever you're doing, whatever you're playing, we've got you covered for the prime time slate on week 8. That's Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football. A little something for everybody here on this episode of Seize the Gap. Thank you very much for checking out our show. You can find our content wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Find us on social media at Seize the Gap FF and on the web at seizethegapff.com. Very simple, very easy to remember, just like the flaps, FLAPS. Follow, like, and please subscribe. If you had fun, please click the thumb. And you should know we are not affiliated with DraftKings or the DraftKings Sportsbook, but we are getting our odds and wagers from there, and everything is accurate as of October 24th, 2025. No time for love, Dr. Jones. Let's get right into it with the tale of the tape. On Sunday Night Football, we have the 4-1-1 Green Bay Packers traveling to face the 4-2 Pittsburgh Steelers. The Packers are 3-point road favorites, minus 162 on the money line, while the Steelers are 3-point home underdogs, plus 136 on the money line. The game total is 45.5 points. On Monday Night Football, the 3-4 Washington Commanders are traveling to Kansas City to face the 4-3 Chiefs. The Chiefs are 12.5-point home favorites, minus 800 on the money line. The Commanders are 12.5-point road dogs, plus 550 on the money line. The game total is 47.5 points. No real weather concerns. There is a slight chance of showers in the Kansas City game, but I really am not worried about it. The big injury note is Jaden Daniels will be out for the Commanders. Marcus Mariota will be getting the start. That's the bad news. The good news is that he will have Terry McLaurin and Deebo Samuel to throw to. Both receivers seem to be full go and will be in there for Monday Night Football. Just keep an eye on the offensive lineman, Trey Smith, for the Chiefs. He is questionable, would be a bit of a downgrade if he's out, considering they're already down their left tackle. As far as overall thoughts on the Sunday Night Football game, I don't know how much I want to lean into the Aaron Rodgers revenge against the Packers narrative. It's certainly a thing if I'm going to go somewhere with it. It's just that maybe he takes an extra couple of chances. I mean, he had the big game against the Jets. It is what it is, but I'm not really adjusting how I approach the game just because he is playing the Packers. Take the name off the jersey, look at how the opposing team has been playing, and certainly you can find a way that Rodgers and the Steelers put up some points here. I mean, the Packers have been winning games. They've been keeping lesser teams right in it until the end. I'm not at all comfortable with the way they've been closing. They could get Christian Watson back, but they won't have Dontavian Wicks again. I don't think that's really going to move the needle. Nor will Watson probably play that many snaps coming off the ACL. So it's a matter of how these offenses are going to get the job done. On the Steelers side of the ball, you got Jaylen Warren and DK Metcalf, who are pretty much what they are. They've been very consistent throughout the season. Both of them have a little bit of a ceiling, but maybe not as quite as high as you would want, especially for Metcalf. Outside of that, you're probably pushing it. I don't mind the Gainwells, the Austins, the Steelers tight ends of the world, but anything past the top two options there, and then possibly Rodgers, is probably a bit too much for me. And that includes in the wagering as well as your fantasy leagues. And the Packers are not much different. Josh Jacobs has been massively consistent. I think he scored 2 touchdowns in the last 3 games. That's where the offense is coming from. Jordan Love has quietly been sort of disappointing. It seems like Matt LaFleur really doesn't trust him, so he's kind of operating with training wheels on sometimes, it seems, especially in the second half of games where the Packers attempt to not lose the game as opposed to winning. I would like to see Love turn it around here and really kind of outduel Rodgers. That'd be very, very nice for our fantasy teams where we own Love. It'd be nice if you want to play him over on DraftKings and if you want to ride with the Packers laying the 3 points on the road. But I'm a little bit skeptical. Dubs has been kind of consistent. I like Tucker Kraft for who he is, but it's just really tough to trust any part of that Green Bay offense other than Josh Jacobs, who is just been very, very consistent with his volume. He hasn't been nearly as dynamic as you would hope or you would remember from that awesome season he had with the Raiders a couple of years ago. Just have not seen those big plays. He's really getting it done on volume and touchdowns, but he can get involved in the passing game at times. So definitely a guy I'm going to be leaning on in DFS and probably some wagers this week. As far as a vulture man, a random touchdown scorer, I have Jamie G's pick here. I will go first though because I absolutely love this. Aaron Rodgers, anytime touchdown scorer, plus 3,000. So 100 to win 3,100, a profit of 3,000. I know he's old. He's slow as molasses. He didn't even like getting tackled by his own teammate. All that being said, if they're on the 3 yard line or something, the opportunity presents itself against his former team. You really think Rodgers isn't going to tuck it and try to die for the pylon? At plus 3,000, it's worth taking the shot. So if nothing else, I'm throwing $10 on that one just for the hell of it. Be a nice, cool $300 if he can find the end zone. If you want to go bigger than that, I totally respect it. And that's what she said. JBG tried to go as random, but there's no way he can beat that. Rodgers literally has the longest odds to score, other than no touchdown at all in the game. But Jamie G's going to go with the Steelers tight end all the way down to Connor Hayward. Not one of the three you were thinking of. Hayward is plus 950. That is plenty long. We know Arthur Smith likes to work in the various tight ends, especially around the goal line. Rodgers has historically, over his career, targeted tight ends with great frequency in the end zone. So I like what Jamie G is putting down here with the Connor Hayward. It's just that plus 950 isn't anywhere near as long as plus 3,000. Even I can do that math. Kind of tough to evaluate the Commanders' offense. I mean, now you get both receivers back, but Mariota's in there. We've just so rarely this season actually seen all of the starters on the field for the Commanders, and I know that's what football is. Especially the deeper you get into the season, the less likely it is that you're going to get the projected starting unit out there, especially for multiple games in a row. And the teams that do that are usually the ones that go deep in the playoffs. Availability is a real ability. I just don't know how KC doesn't smoke them here. Where is that Commanders offense going to come from? Mariota reminds me so much of Carson Wentz. Again, these highly drafted quarterbacks, tons of physical tools. Yet whenever they play now, it's always diminishing returns. They always tend to start well, and everyone's like, "Oh man, I remember why they were drafted so highly." And then after 2 to 4 games, you're like, "Oh yeah, I remember why they keep losing their starting jobs." I think we're at that point with Mariota. He adds enough on the ground. He's certainly usable in fantasy, and you can throw some wagers on it. But I think he would have to have a full-on turn back the clock kind of game, like 250 passing yards, two plus touchdowns, no interceptions, 40, 50 yards on the ground, maybe another score there, something along those lines to keep up with Kansas City. And I just don't see that happening. So it makes me hesitant to trust almost anybody on that Commanders offense. Honestly, Zach Ertz might be my favorite kind of floor play over there. I feel like he's going to get his 4 to 6 receptions and a shot at a touchdown no matter what. So it is what it is. We'll talk about the fantasy implications of that in a minute, but I think they needed Jaden Daniels for this game to be competitive, as illustrated by the line moving, I believe, 8 points towards the Kansas City side. So yeah, that's despite the receivers coming back, it's not really making a dent when you have Mariota under center. I don't know what Kansas City can do differently other than I'm not sure how to predict them really. You know what I mean? I mean, we've got on the Kansas City side, you know what it is. Patrick Mahomes is going to get his. I mean, his 2+ passing touchdown number is kind of silly compared to everybody else's. It's basically implied that the man is going to throw for 250 yards and two touchdowns. That's what he's been doing. He's a QB1 on the season. So I'm still riding with him here. I don't think the Chiefs are going to let off the gas until they have at least, 28, 30 points on the scoreboard. At that point, yeah, maybe we do get to see Brashard Smith and players of that ilk more. But for the most part, I think you can absolutely trust Mahomes here. If the game goes the way I think, you're probably going to get some stuff out of Pacheco, especially if Kareem Hunt is banged up. I think he's going to play, but it is a bone bruise to that knee. So we're probably not going to know the definitive answer until Monday night. Not a huge part in the offense, so I'm not highlighting it unless I'm interested in using the KC running backs, and I think that's where the difference will be. If he's out, it probably guarantees Pacheco the goal line carries and a couple more touches overall, and gives Brashard Smith most of the work in the passing game. So if Hunt is out, adjust accordingly. I don't know who to trust outside of Rashee Rice. That'll get a little bit tricky. The Chiefs have numerous options now, and I'm not sure that I like, Kelsey that much more than Worthy or vice versa, or that I like Hollywood Brown more than Tyquan Thornton. I probably like both those guys a little bit more than Juju, but then you have Noah Gray. The Chiefs are doing the everybody eats thing now, so it makes it a little difficult to pin down outside of Mahomes and Rice. So those are two players I'm going to be leaning on in my fantasy teams, DraftKings lineups, and even in my wagering. Outside of that, I'm definitely going to take my chances under the anticipated situation of the Chiefs winning by double-digit points, scoring 30 plus. So that's kind of the auspice I'm operating under. As far as the Vulture Man touchdown here, I was torn between Noah Gray and Marcus Mariota, but you know what? Give me Noah Gray. I don't think we've seen it yet, but he's been a little bit more involved the past 2 weeks. So Chiefs backup tight end plus 475 anytime touchdown score. And Jamie G is going to go back to the well here. He tried it last time we were doing the Commanders, didn't work, but he said, if not, if you first you don't succeed, dust yourself off and try again, doing an Aaliyah thing here. So he's going back to the well with Jeremy McNichols, the backup Commanders running back, plus 700 to find the end zone in Kansas City. Let's kick off our fantasy discussion with the usual suspects. These are the players you need to be locking into your lineup. No hesitation, no surrender, no man left behind. John Thundergun style. Again, we are assuming you are playing in a one quarterback, 12 team PPR league. If you are in a different format, you will have to adjust our recommendations accordingly to fit your rules and settings. For the Green Bay Packers, no hesitation, no surrender. Lock Jordan Love, Josh Jacobs, and Tucker Kraft into your lineups. For the Steelers, you're locking in Jalen Warren, DK Metcalf, and nobody beats the boss. Chris Boswell getting in there. You got to start a kicker. Boz is one of the better options for you. For the Commanders, I think you have to start Terry McLaurin, Debo Samuel, and Zach Ertz. And for the Chiefs, you're obviously starting Patrick Mahomes, Rashee Rice, and you're probably starting Travis Kelce because let's face it, the tight end position is not the greatest as always. So you probably don't have a better option. I don't love Kelce this week, but he's still projecting. I think he's my tight end 7 right now. Nothing wrong with that again. There's 6 guys I might like more than that, but that's it, just a handful. So you're probably starting Kelce if you own him. As far as streaming options for Green Bay, I don't mind Dubs or Matthew Golden. I would probably play Dubs over Golden if I had to pick and choose. And I don't hate the Green Bay DST, but you do have to be aware they are going to be a bit of a bob here, a boom or bust option. I can see him getting through, sacking Rodgers a bunch of times. They get up, Rodgers turns it over a couple times. On the other hand, I can see the Steelers putting up 30 points and the Packers, getting you like 1 or 2 points from the DST. So again, more of a streaming option than someone you want to just start by default because they're a talented defense. For streamers for Pittsburgh, Rodgers is fine. No problem with him, really. I think he's like QB 14 for me this week, so kind of right on the edge. And if you want to play a Steelers tight end, go for it. I'm going to let you pick. There's 4, but there's only 3 I would really start in a fantasy league. But if you want to go for one of them, I think legitimately flip a coin, rock, paper, scissors, something. That's as good of a system as any to pick the right one. For the Commanders, Marcus Mariota is fine. He's definitely a streamer in 2 quarterback superflex leagues. In 1 quarterback leagues, I don't hate it, but I think you're definitely gambling on the GTP, the garbage time production, and that's always a little bit scary. With 6 teams on a bye during the bye Mageddon, you might not have a choice, but not one of my favorite options. But again, if you're digging down to the bottom of the barrel here for a streamer, I certainly like him better than some others due to his rushing upside and the fact that the Commanders will probably be playing from behind. And on the Kansas City side, I don't mind Isaiah Pacheco at all here. As long as the game plays out the way I think it's going to, this probably shapes up as one of the best chances you'll have to start Pacheco all season. Again, especially with 6 teams on a bye, go ahead, lock and load him in there. I don't think I'm digging down to the Hollywood Brown, Tyquan Thorntons of the world, but if you need a kind of boom or bust, a high ceiling, low floor wide receiver option, I don't mind Xavier Worthy as a wide receiver 3 or a flex this week. Next, we're going to make a couple of start-sit decisions. Jamie G and I went through these players, and we each picked which one we would prefer to start again in a 12-team, 1 QB PPR league. We have a bunch that we agreed on and a couple that we didn't. Starting with the big question, what do you do with Aaron Rodgers? Would you rather play Aaron Rodgers at home versus Green Bay or old man Flacco at home versus the Jets? I think somewhat surprisingly, Jamie G and I are both on old man Rodgers here. I think that's more because the Bengals should hopefully get ahead of that Jets team. No Sauce Gardner now. Looks like they're going to start Tyrod. No Garrett Wilson. Could be a case where Flacco doesn't have to do nearly as much as he had to do last week against the Steelers. So go ahead, lock Chase Brown in there. But Jamie G and I are both going with Aaron Rodgers over old man Flacco. And we're also both going with old man Rodgers over Marcus Mariota. Again, I already talked about Mariota. There's a certain kind of upside there, but he's really a boomer bust prospect. I think Rodgers has a very similar floor with a greater chance of achieving his ceiling. Mariota's ceiling is probably higher if the stars aligned, but I think Rodgers has a much better chance of actually hitting his ceiling. So we're both going with Rodgers over Mariota. And then we had, would you rather play Kenneth Gainwell, Steelers running back versus the Packers, or RJ Harvey, the backup running back for the Broncos, rookie running back over there. And that's who Jamie G and I are going with, RJ Harvey. He has been somewhat involved for the Broncos. It's disappointing to see Tyler Bidet involved as much as he has been there on passing downs, but the Broncos have an excellent matchup this week against the Dallas Cowboys, so we're going to take a chance on his upside to score a touchdown, catch a couple passes over Kenneth Gainwell this week. And then we have Isaiah Pacheco at home versus the Commanders, or Tyler Algier, backup running back for the Falcons, with a sweet matchup against the Dolphins. Probably no surprise that we're both going with Isaiah Pacheco here. Again, this shapes up as one of the better games for Pacheco this season, especially if Kareem Hunt is not available. So go ahead, play Isaiah Pacheco over Tyler Algier. And then we have the interesting one. Do you play Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt or our guy, Isaiah Pacheco. And we're going to stick to it here. We're going to stay with Isaiah Pacheco. We love our guy, Bill. It's just difficult to see how he is going to get a lot of carries this week unless the Commanders can find a way to either get a lead or keep this one close. He's not as involved in the passing game as you would like. He's had some struggles with fumbles, so we're going to take Pacheco over our guy, Bill. But again, that's just for this week, not for the rest of the season, and certainly not in dynasty leagues. If you were doing a heads up between the Packers wide receivers, and you can only start one of Romeo Doubs or Matthew Golden, we both elected to go with Romeo Doubs, despite the fact that we really like Golden as a prospect. He has been more involved recently, but ever since Jaden Reed got hurt, Doubs has been by far the most consistent Packers wide receiver and the most targeted one in the end zone. So he is the guy you want here. And then we had a Romeo Doubs or Jamie G's guy, Khalil Shakir, Bills wide receiver, coming out of the bye, traveling to Carolina. And again, somewhat surprisingly, we're both going with Doubs. Shakir just has not been nearly as consistent as he was last year. Only really had one good game and a couple of other usable games. He was previously a high floor wide receiver 3, and now he's a little bit more of a boom or bust wide receiver 4. So even though you like the Bills to win the game and you're not as sure that the Packers are going to win based on the spread, I think I understand why we went with Doubs. And, I'll be making that same decision in at least one of my leagues. That's how this wound up in here. So hopefully we are correct. And then just for the hell of it, we had to pick a Steelers tight end. We didn't want to make it a 3 first, so we just said, between Darnell Washington or Jonnu Smith, who you got? And Jamie G and I both went with Darnell Washington. Total coin flip here. I think we just like the big man's, red zone ability. He has had the most consistent target diet, getting, I think, 5 targets in 3 straight games. So at least you kind of know what you're getting with him. And I would love to see it happen just because he is such a unique physical human being. He is just gigantic. But we saw Freiermuth with the big play last week. But of course, all 3 tight ends scored last week, 4 total tight end touchdowns for the Steelers. So who knows? And then we had 2 matchups between DSTs, defense special teams units. Would you rather play Green Bay at Pittsburgh or Tampa Bay at New Orleans? We both pretty easily went with Tampa Bay here. I know they're a little bit banged up. The Saints have been better at home, but going against the Saints has been a very, very viable streaming strategy for your defense special teams units this week. And it looks like they are breaking down a little bit. Spencer Rattler turned it over a couple times last week. He had previously been taking pretty good care of the ball, so maybe the wheels are starting to come off a little bit for that Saints offense. And then finally, would you rather play the Kansas City Chiefs DST or the Atlanta Falcons DST? Falcons at home versus the Dolphins. Both are fantastic streamers, but given the way the Chiefs have been playing and the presence of Marcus Mariota under center for the Commanders, we are both going with the Kansas City Chiefs as a better DST this week than the Atlanta Falcons. Again, both are startable, but if we had to choose between the two, which is the whole point of this, we're going with Kansas City. And we did have a couple that we disagreed on here. First up, the matchup on Sunday Night Football between Rodgers and Jordan Love. I'm still going with Rodgers. Jamie G's going back to the well. Jordan Love, that's his guy. Very close in the projections. 2 men enter, 1 man wins. 1 leaves alive. We'll see which one of us is correct. And then we had Kenneth Gainwell, Steelers running back versus the Packers, or Tajay Spears, Titans running back, traveling to Indy, where they are 2 touchdown road dogs. Jamie G went with Gainwell. I went with Spears. I just think Spears is going to get 10 more touches than Gainwell, barring injury. It does look like he is slowly taking over that Tennessee backfield. It's not like there's a lot of offensive goodness on that Titans offense, but they did show a little bit more life last week under interim coach Mike McCoy. I love Spears' explosive ability. He should be involved in the passing game. So, maybe Gainwell gets it done. I do very much like him as a player, but depending on the game script, I don't think he's going to touch the ball that much. Feel much more confident about Spears. Again, both are fine if you're kind of digging deep for a third running back, second flex, that sort of thing. And then we had a big wide receiver matchup between Xavier Worthy of the Chiefs and George Pickens, Cowboys wide receiver, traveling to Denver. Tough matchup for Pickens, but I did go with him while Jamie G went with Xavier Worthy. I think Pickens easily has the higher floor here. I think you can argue that Worthy does have the higher ceiling based on the matchup and his explosive ability. But man, Pickens has looked good, even with CeeDee Lamb last week. Had a couple of big catches, did not find the end zone, but did also draw a big pass interference call that didn't show up in the box score. So I am encouraged. And if Surtain is going to be on Lamb, I think that really opens things up for Pickens this week. So that's why I went with him. But again, Xavier Worthy is a very fine play as well. I just view Pickens as kind of more of like a low-end wide receiver 2 this week, whereas Worthy's kind of more of a mid-range wide receiver 3 for me. We are not affiliated with Draftkings, but we are down with the king. I'm going to try to help you out with the showdown contest on Draftkings for Sunday and Monday Night Football, starting with Sunday Night Football and the biggest decision of all, who do you play in your captain spot? In this case, I think it's an easy call. If you are playing in a cash game, head-to-head, double up, that sort of thing, just play Josh Jacobs in your captain spot, 16,500. Scored two touchdowns in three straight games, has two 30-plus point performances this season, hasn't scored less than 12 points, and that was that weird game against Cleveland. So a very nice floor here, has a ceiling. I don't really need to worry about it in cash games. He is a little bit expensive, but if you play him, you don't necessarily know that you're going to play Love, so that opens things up a little bit in terms of salary. So again, cash game, head-to-heads, that sort of thing, and just lock in Josh Jacobs. Also viable in a large field tournament, but if I am in a large field tournament, especially if I'm not max entering, I'm probably going to take the chance on Jordan Love at 15,000. He is a fairly inexpensive to stack, but I think the key is you have to make a choice if you're going to play, well, really Love or Jacobs a captain, and that's how you're going to distribute your Packers ownership. If you are playing one of these two a captain and the other one in your flex, I think that's it for your Packers. Unless you are going with an extreme value play, I think you just have to hope that all of the touchdowns are going to come off the arm of Love or with the feet of Jacobs and call it a wrap. But if you go the other way, I think then you play one and not the other. In tournaments, it's probably a more viable strategy to play one and not the other. So if you're playing Jacobs and captain, don't play Love at the flex, and vice versa if you have Love at captain. Whereas in a cash game, I don't mind playing Love and Jacobs and trying to just soak up all of those Packers touchdowns. So a couple of different ways you can approach it here. Jacobs is 1,500 more expensive, and on this slate, I think that does make a difference. We don't really have that one awesome value play that's opening everything up for us, so you do have to be a little bit careful. And I don't know if I'm going to get to any Steelers player at captain. You have Rodgers at 14,700, Jalen Warren at 14,400, and DK Metcalf at 14,100. If I had to pick between the two, if I had to pick between the three, somewhat surprisingly, I think it would be Jalen Warren. He has shown a pretty solid floor and a bit of a ceiling here. The game flow has to work out right, but Rodgers is kind of expensive to stack up here if you want to get him with DK and then play Jacobs on the other side of it. So I don't mind Rodgers. I get it. I think he'll be the most owned, so I'm probably not going to lean into that too much in these larger fields. Just because of the revenge narrative, I'm sure I'll throw in at least a lineup or two with him at captain, but I don't think I'm going there with DK hardly at all. He's just been too much of a low ceiling option, more of a high floor guy. So I think I'm kind of splitting it right down the middle here, going with Jalen Warren at 14-4 if I'm going to play a Steelers player at captain. And if you are looking to save salary again, there really isn't that kind of dumpster dive play we love. I don't hate Kenneth Gainwell, 3,000 for the Steelers running back. The game stays close. He could have 8 to 10 points without finding the end zone. If he finds the end zone, again, you're looking at about 15 points, barring injury to Jalen Warren. At 3,000, that is certainly good enough. But if the game flow doesn't work in his favor, we'll see what happened last week happen. He probably gets you 3 or 4 points. Not an absolute killer in showdown, especially if you were just playing in a lower variance format like a cash game or a head-to-head or even a single entry tournament. But and the only thing you do have going for you outside of that is after last week, the ownership for Warren is projected to be up, and nobody is taking a chance on Gainwell, at least to the degree that they were last week. So just something to think about. Could also take a shot on Calvin Austin the third. Pittsburgh wide receiver is slated to return this week, $5,800. He's a boom or bust player. Pretty much has to find the end zone on one of those long plays to pay it off, but Rodgers likes to take a couple of those shots, so I think he's a fine stacking option with Rodgers in tournament lineups. And then you have the Steelers tight ends, Jonnu Smith 4,200, Freiermuth 4,000, Darnell Washington 3,800. Freiermuth is picking up the most ownership by a smidge, but it's pretty close. I honestly think you just roll the dice here. I do not have a good answer. I wish I did. If I had to pick one just for the hell of it, right now I'm going with Jonnu Smith, figuring that just because he is the most expensive, he will ultimately be the lowest owned and does probably have the best blend of big playability and red zone targets. I know Washington's probably going to get his 5 targets again. It's just a matter of seeing what he can do with them. Freiermuth has the splash playability, but I guess I'll split the difference and take Jonnu Smith if you force me to. Otherwise, again, I'm just flipping a coin or seeing who it works out I have the right salary for at the end of the day. And if you're spending up not at captain, I think you want to get Josh Jacobs in there at 11,000. I do not know if I would play Jacobs and Love both in the flex together. Love is 10,000. Just something you can maybe consider in a certain tournament build. I definitely don't think I would go that way in a cash game. Outside of Jacobs, I would spend up for Jalen Warren probably at 9,600. Other than the Cleveland game, at least 13 DK points in every game. He's been very solid, decent ceiling, very, very good floor here. I don't mind DK Metcalf at 9,400, but again, he's been more of a high floor than a high ceiling option. I think you can stack him with Rodgers in a tournament build, but that's probably about it. A decent floor, so I don't mind him in a cash game if you have the salary to spare. But this week, I'm not sure if you will, so I don't know how much DK I'm going to get to. I do like Tucker Kraft, the Packers tight end, at 8,400. Another guy who's a bit of a bob here, boom or bust player, but more on the high end, a little bit more involved since Jaden Reed got hurt. I don't know that he is going to get the volume we want here, but the Steelers have actually been a pretty decent matchup for tight ends. He is easily their most frequently targeted guy down in the red zone, in the end zone there. So I don't mind it at all, especially if you're stacking it with Love. You know, if you are playing Love at captain, Kraft might be my first guy in there with him. So another guy very much like this week at 8,400. If I had to play one in the flex, Jordan Love at 10,000 or Rodgers at 9,800, it definitely depends on your build, almost exclusively who you have a captain. Like certainly if I have Jalen Warren a captain, I'm going with Love over Rodgers. So I think that's kind of the generalistic approach. I would say that I'd play Rodgers in a cash game more or less, and then Love in a tournament. You know, Rodgers is fairly consistent. You know what you're going to get here. Love does have that bigger upside, I believe, that 30, 35 plus point upside. We haven't seen it yet, so that's why I would rather probably play him at captain in a tournament or really not get to him at all. So just kind of something to consider here as you're trying to fill out your lineups. Between Jalen Warren at 9,600 or DK Metcalf at 94, I'm definitely going with Warren at 96. And then you have Romeo Dubs at 7,600 or Matthew Golden at 7,000. I think Dubs is easily the play in your cash game formats. If you're going to play Love at captain, you can certainly play both of these guys. You can maybe even play them both and Kraft if you really want to go for it. In a tournament, I don't mind taking shots on Golden. We've seen Love look for him down the field. He's made a couple of big catches in each of the last few weeks, so the rookie is making progress. So again, I'd say probably Dubs in a cash game, single entry. Take the shot on Golden in a tournament, but I will certainly have exposure to both in lineups where I have Love and lineups where I don't. I would say I'm more apt to play Dubs naked. So if I'm not going to play Love, I think I'm definitely siding with Dubs in that build. And then if we're going to do a little pack in the stack in the back of the axe, start you out with a little mini stack here to get you going. Going to play Josh Jacobs, the captain, 16,500. Follow that up with Rodgers on the other side. You figure if Jacobs getting it done, you want that correlation play. Rodgers is 9,800 in the flex. Got to pair him up with somebody. I mentioned Jonnu Smith, playing him because I think he'll be the least owned and I'm not paying the extra 400. So Jonnu Smith at 4,200. And then getting a little interesting with it. Thought about going down to Austin or working another tight end and said, let's throw Jalen Warren in there at 9,600 and try to just get everything from the Steelers here. Hopefully Rodgers only throws 2 touchdowns. They're both to Smith. Warren finds 1 or 2 on the ground. They score a whole bunch here. If you do that, that leaves you about 4,950 per player to fill out your lineup. Again, you could certainly go another way from Warren with that final spot in there, but I like this kind of mini stack to get you going, and it'll fit very nicely in the back of your Acura. Monday Night Football is enemy territory for myself and Jamie G, as we are Eagles and Bills fans respectively. And if you are playing in the showdown over here in a cash game, head-to-head, double up, don't overthink it. Just play Patrick Mahomes at captain, 16,500, at least 23 DraftKings points in 6 of 7 games this year, at least 26 points in 4 straight. You could certainly play him in tournaments. He is by far and away the most popular captain option across all formats. But I think, again, head-to-head cash game, single entry, just do not overthink it. Put Patrick Mahomes in at captain, set it and forget it. If you are playing in a large field tournament, maybe take the chance on Rashee Rice at 14,400. Was extremely productive last week despite only playing about half the snaps. He is expected to ramp up his participation this week, so playing closer to a full complement of snaps. 7, 8 catches, 100 plus yards, 2 touchdowns is certainly on the table here. I think a lot of people are just going to elect to play Mahomes a captain and then stack Rice with him in the flex. So you could get a little bit of leverage here by playing Rice a captain and Mahomes in the flex, or even possibly playing Rice a captain and foregoing Mahomes in the flex entirely. If you were going to start a Commanders player, I don't even know. It would probably have to be Mariota. There's no way I can put any of the running backs at captain here unless I'm going with an absolute crazy tournament build. And I don't really want to try to choose between the wide receivers. I don't know that Mariota can do enough to unlock either of them. Ertz doesn't have enough big play ability. So I guess it's kind of Mariota or nothing, 13-8 in the captain spot if I'm going to the commander side. If I want to dig deeper for the Chiefs, Isaiah Pacheco's 10,500 here at captain. This would be the week for it if you're ever going to do it. You could play him, play the Chiefs defense, Mahomes, Rice, and then throw in Mariota and whatever else you want, more or less. And I can see that being a very viable tournament build if Pacheco goes off for 100 yards and multiple touchdowns. And then you have the Chiefs DST, 6,600 in your flex, at least 7 DraftKings points in 4 of their last 5 games. And in the 2 games where Kansas City has been favored by a touchdown or more, they have scored 12 and 13 points. This is not a build I'm usually a fan of, but we have seen a couple of these showdown contests taken down with either a DST or kicker in the captain spot, so it is a viable build. If you don't have enough that you need to pay for this week, then I think you really need to go there in terms of saving money, but it certainly is a very, very interesting build, especially if you wanted to, throw them in there and stack them with Brashard Smith and hope that he gets a return touchdown and get some work on offense, and then you would really be cooking with gas. So just something to think about in your very, very large tournament builds. For value, there is a bunch here almost entirely on the Kansas City side. You could go back to the one with Noah Gray. The Kansas City Chiefs backup tight end is only $2,000. Pretty much boom or bust. If he hits the end zone, he'll pay off for you. But he has shown a little bit more involvement over the past couple of weeks. Could get you 4 to 6 points without finding the end zone. That will not break you at $2,000 in salary. Don't mind stacking Mahomes up with Tyquan Thornton once again at 2,800 for the Chiefs wide receiver. Probably only going to get 2 to 4 targets, but Mahomes likes taking shots on him. He's looked for him in the end zone, so you could certainly do worse at that salary. Mentioned Brashard Smith a minute ago. The Chiefs running back is now up to $4,000. Keep an eye on Kareem Hunt. If he does not play, that probably locks Smith into at least a handful of carries and most of the receiving work. At that point, he's probably a viable play in cash games, because he's got a nice little floor there with the receiving work, and you could certainly use him in a large field tournament. Hope he busts off a big play. Converted wide receiver is also the returner, so got multiple ways to find the end zone there. You have Hollywood Brown at 5,400. It is what it is. If you're playing Mahomes, you want to stack it up and hope that Brown basically does what he did last week. Go for it. But I would just rather pay up and get to Worthy or Kelsey, or drop down to Thornton or Gray. So I don't know how much Brown I'm going to get to unless I am right in that salary range. And honestly, if I'm right in that salary range, I would probably go to the other side of the ball and just play Zach Ertz at 5,600. He has been kind of a boom or bust tight end or touchdown dependent option, but I think he could be more involved this week and lead the team in receptions with Mariota at quarterback. So I don't mind Ertz in most formats this week. And then you have to figure out who you're going to spend up for outside of the captain position and more than the value plays. I think you have to get Mahomes in there in almost all builds at 11,000 flat, and probably Rashee Rice at 9,600 if we're being honest. I think you can only play, I think you can only not play Mahomes if you're going to do something like play Pacheco or Rice at captain and build this kind of funky narrative where the Chiefs aren't really going to need Mahomes to do much. It can happen. We see it about once or twice a year with the Bills, where Josh Allen only has like 10 points because their defense scores once or twice and James Cook goes nuts. So I guess you could see a play here where the Kansas City Chiefs defense, is lights out again. Pacheco goes crazy. Mahomes only throws for 225 yards and 1 or 2 touchdowns, and that's not enough to pay off the tag. I think you almost have to play Rice at this tag. I'm expecting him to be heavily involved, so I'll probably have more exposure to him in my flex. But again, part of that will be because I will have, the majority of my lineups probably with Patrick Mahomes at captain. And if I had to play somebody on the commander side of the ball other than Ertz, it's still probably Mariota here, 9,200 in the flex. Decent floor. There is a theoretical ceiling here. I just don't feel like trying to choose between the wide receivers. And I don't know that I'm going to go with any of the running backs. So that's probably the way I'm going if I have enough salary to do so. Isaiah Pacheco, 7K flat. Really like him this week again, even more so if Hunt is out. If Hunt is out, I can play Pacheco basically in all formats. I will be a little bit more judicious if Hunt is in there, but at 7,000, I think you can play him in just about any build. And then you have the decision between Xavier Worthy at 8,600, Travis Kelsey at 8,000. Kelsey more likely to find the end zone, Worthy more likely to bust the big play. At the end of the day, similar ownership. I'm probably spending up for Worthy where I can and hoping that he busts the long one. But if you want to go back to the well and hope for the Travis Kelsey 2 touchdown game, I don't blame you. If you had to pick between Deebo Samuel at 9,000, Terry McLaurin at 8,400, Given that it's Mariota at quarterback, I'm probably going to go with Deebo Samuel. I like McLaurin. He is a technician, but you can see how Jane Daniels can take advantage of that. I just don't know that Mariota throws the kind of ball that can really properly utilize McLaurin. So I think I'd rather take the chance on Deebo getting some of those short area targets and hopefully busting off a lot of yak and getting a long play that way. And then we have our guy Bill, Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt down at 7,200. I think the only way I'm getting to him is if I am building some kind of narrative, some kind of lineup structure that anticipates the Commanders either winning the game or keeping it very, very close. In that case, I could see him getting into my lineup. Otherwise, I just don't think I'm going to go there. And then finally, to wrap up down with the king, we're packing the stack in the back of the act on Monday Night Football. No surprise, play Patrick Mahomes at captain, 16,500. And then take a shot at our guy, Tyquan Thornton. We've been playing him all season. Why not one more long touchdown? 2,800 in the flex. Get Ertz in there, 5,600, and Mariota at 9,200. That leaves you almost 8,000 per player, 7,950, and it gives you multiple options to go. Whatever you want to do with the Chiefs, you can get Pacheco in and pay up. You can go with one of the other cheaper Chief options and then go all the way up to get Rice in there. Plenty of optionality in this build. Looks like a nice way to get it started, and once again, fits comfortably into the back of your rack. It's time to make our money, and hopefully we can make you some money on Bet It, Bank It, Blow It. Please remember that we are not affiliated with the Draftkings Sportsbook, but we are getting our odds and wagers from there, and everything is accurate as of October 24th, 2025. And here on Bet It, Bank It, Blow It, our preferred currency is the Cricket coin. In Cricket, we trust, so all of our wagers will be in the form of Cricket coins. We like to kick things off with the golden grab bag, basically wagers that we like that don't fit into any of our particular narratives or bits that we do here. So we just try to fill up the grab bag with some goodies for you. Last week on the Sunday Monday night slate, Jamie G wound up down about 109 cricket coins, going 1-4-3. He hit on Seattle -3, but missed on Atlanta +3.5 on the alternate spread, and Tampa Bay at Detroit over 52.5. And I did not have any contribution to the grab bag for Sunday, Monday night in week 7. So as a duo, we were down that 109 points. Overall for the season in the grab bag on the Sunday, Monday night slate, Jamie G is down about 74 coins. I am up 125 coins. So collectively, we are up about 51 coins. And then overall in the grab bag across all slates, Jamie G is down about 208 coins. I am up about 162 coins, putting this up about 46 coins as a collective. I have Jamie G's wagers here. He has two offerings for the grab bag this week, one from each game. First, he's going to put 100 cricket coins on his guy, Jordan Love, 230 plus passing yards. That is -142. So a wager of 100 coins returns about 170 coins. Last week, Jamie G was disappointed by Jordan Love. I remember he had his big boy bet, the Love 220 plus passing yards. Did not get there against the Cardinals. Jamie G is banking on him getting it done this week against Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers. And then on Monday Night Football, Jamie G is putting 100 cricket coins on Marcus Mariota over 0.5 interceptions. Gotta love that one. -157. 100 coins to bring back about 164. And I'm going to be honest with you, if he hadn't gone with that one, I was going to. I only have one offering for the grab bag here. I think the Chiefs are going to put up some points. So I'm going to put 100 cricket coins on Kansas City over 30.5 points. That's team points, so they need 31 or more. That is -105. So a wager of 100 coins returns about 195 cricket coins. Sometimes you don't want to jump right into the main event. Sometimes you want to just do a little bit of a tease first. You know my tease. It is time to offer up some teasers for this Sunday, Monday night slate in week 8. Last week on the Sunday, Monday night slate, Jamie G had one teaser, a two-legger. He did not win, so he lost 100 cricket coins. He hit on Seattle +3, but missed on Tampa Bay at Detroit over 46.5. For the season, Jamie G is down 500 coins to the teasers on the Sunday, Monday night slate and 600 coins overall across all slates. Once again, this week, Jamie G has a two-leg 6-point teaser at -135 as available on Draftkings. Leg number 1, he's got Green Bay at Pittsburgh over 39.5 points. And then leg number 2, he has Kansas City -6.5 versus the Commanders. So once again, 100 coins at -135 returns about 174 coins if he is successful. Just for kicks, I decided to join the teas this week. I also have a two-leg 6-point teaser at -135. I'm going a little bit differently with leg number one. I'm going to take Pittsburgh plus 9 points versus Green Bay. And then leg number two, I'm doing the same thing as Jamie G, teasing it down to Kansas City -6.5 versus the Commanders. 100 cricket coins to bring back about 174. If you can't execute the teas properly, you can slowly but surely decline into degeneracy, and that happens via a process we call the 3 degrees of degeneracy. This is my bit where I take a couple of long shot wagers. Last week, I was unsuccessful in that I did not win money, but I was successful in that I was a degenerate. I lost all 175 coins I wagered, missing all three of my wagers: George Kittle anytime touchdown, Jamison Williams 70 plus receiving yards, and Jared Goff 4+ passing touchdowns. For the season, across the Monday, Sunday night football slate, I am down 506 coins to the degeneracy, and across all slates, I am down about 461 coins to the 3 degrees of degeneracy. We have three wagers for you here, 3 degrees of degeneracy. We start out with the flounder. This is basically Degeneracy 101, Intro to Degeneracy. Like you're a poor, innocent college student, like our guy Flounder in Animal House. You're just dipping your toe into the waters here. You do not know how deep it will get. Still have 100 cricket coins, and we're going to put them on something that seems pretty obvious, right? 100 cricket coins on Aaron Rodgers, 2+ passing touchdowns. That is -131, so a 100 coin wager returns about 176 coins. Feels like that almost has to happen here, right? Unless they're going to start handing the ball off to tight ends. And let's not give Arthur Smith any ideas. Then we have the Barney in honor of our favorite degenerate down at Moe's Tavern. Barney Gumble doesn't have as many coins as Flounder, but he's still got 50 coins. He's trying to turn them into enough to pay off some of his gigantic bar tab. So this week he's going to go on something that feels like it should be longer, but it's not. Phrasing intended. He's going to put 50 cricket coins on Josh Jacobs to be a 2+ anytime touchdown scorer. This would be the fourth week in a row he would do so. That is +290. So a 50 coin wager returns 195 coins if Josh Jacobs can find the end zone twice or even thrice. And then we have the cricket in honor of our own Rickety Cricket. This is when you don't have very much money. You're living under the bridge with dogs. You're returning bottles for the deposit, scrounging together 25 coins, trying to turn it into something bigger. Very much considered going with that Aaron Rodgers anytime touchdown, but instead, we're going to bank on our narrative here. 25 cricket coins on Isaiah Pacheco, 100+ rushing yards. That is +1100. So a wager of 25 coins brings back 300 cricket coins if Pacheco can hit triple digits. And that's how we do it. Everything in threes, baby, on the 3 degrees of degeneracy. Good luck this week. Here's to moving out from under the bridge. Moving out from under the bridge would be a cause for celebration. Maybe we would even throw a party. And maybe let's not make it a party, let's make it a partay. This is the parlay partay, where the cost of admission is a parlay. Jamie G had one offering for the partay on the Sunday Monday night slate in week 6. Unfortunately, he did not hit, so he lost 100 cricket coins. He was successful on Jahmyr Gibbs, 50+ rushing yards, but unfortunately missed on Bijan Robinson, 120+ rushing plus receiving yards, and Sam Darnold, 2+ passing touchdowns. For the season on the Sunday Monday night slate, Jamie G is down 47 coins. I am at even Steven 0, and our collaborative parlays are down 200 coins. So we are down 247 cricket coins to the parlay partay across the Sunday Monday night slate. And overall for the partay across all slates, Jamie G is up 403 coins. I am at 0 still, and collaboratively we are down 400 coins. So it means we are in the green by a nice even 3 cricket coins. This week it is my turn to offer up a parlay for the partay. I'm going to go with a 4-leg SGPX parlay. This is the single game parlay X available over on Draftkings. Basically, once you enable it, you can parlay a single game parlay with other things, creating a true degeneracy situation, which we, of course, utilize as much as possible. This is a 4-legger here, starting off on Sunday Night Football with the Josh Jacobs anytime touchdown scorer. Just has to find the end zone once. That is -205. Leg number 2 is Aaron Rodgers, 2+ passing touchdowns. Again, -131. Feels like it's just going to happen here. Leg number 3, Rashee Rice, 60+ receiving yards, -154. Feels like that's almost the floor for him unless some crazy stuff happens. And then finally, we think Kansas City's going to win, but let's tease it down a touch here. Kansas City -9.5 on the alternate spread versus the Commanders. That is -160. You parlay these 4 legs together. Josh Jacobs anytime, Rodgers 2+ passing touchdowns, Rashee Rice 60+ receiving yards, and Kansas City -9.5. Your odds are +520, so a wager of 100 cricket coins returns 620 cricket coins, putting us well into the green for the season, and we will have an excellent reason to partay. As always, we have saved the best for last, a trip to the Golden Goose, the mythic creature who produces the golden eggs composed of pure cricket coins. It's all gold and it's all for you. We are offering them up free of charge. Last week on the Sunday Monday night slate, I went 2 for 3, turning a profit of about 221 cricket coins. I hit on Amon-Ra St. Brown 80+ receiving yards and CJ Stroud over 224.5 passing yards. Missed on Bijan Robinson 120+ combined receiving and rushing yards. Jamie G went 0 for 3 last week on the Sunday Monday night slate, down 750 coins. Missed on Bijan Robinson 70+ rushing yards, Baker Mayfield 230+ passing yards, and Sam Darnold 220+ passing yards. That means as a unit we are down about 543 coins last week on the Sunday Monday night slate. Overall, for the season, across all weeks on the Sunday Monday night slate, I am up about 1,126 coins. Jamie G is up about 370 coins. That puts us up about 1,496 coins as a duo. And then overall, across all slates, for the Golden Goose, I am up about 378 coins. Jamie G is up about 544 coins, putting us up about 922 coins collectively. Jamie G is going to lead us off with his Sunday night football wager. He thinks we're seeing points in this one, so he is putting his 250 cricket coins on Green Bay at Pittsburgh over 45.5 points. That is -115, so 250 coins to bring back about 467 coins. This is a tough one on the total for me. I don't know that I have a strong lean either way, so in Jamie G, we will trust. On Sunday Night Football, I'm going to put my 250 coins on the Josh Jacobs combo prop. Give me 250 cricket coins on Josh Jacobs, 90+ rushing plus receiving yards, 90+ combo yards. That is -120, 250 coins to bring back about 458. Thought about going a couple of different ways, but I feel very confident one way or the other. Josh Jacobs is going to hit this benchmark, so very, very fond of this one. And then on Monday Night Football, again, thought about going a couple of different ways, but I'm going to mix it up here, and I'm actually going to go with a little 2-leg single game parlay. This only pays off at -150, so this is very, very short for a parlay. Leg number 1, Patrick Mahomes, 2+ passing touchdowns, -299. Leg number 2, Kansas City, -6.5 on the alternate spread, -239. So you parlay those 2 legs together. Mahomes, 2+ passing touchdowns, Kansas City -6.5. You're at -150, so 250 coins returns about 417 coins if I can hit both of those legs. And on Monday Night Football, Jamie G is going with his new friend, Rashee Rice, over 67.5 receiving yards. That is -111, so a wager of 250 coins returns about 475 coins. I know it pains Jamie G to take a Kansas City Chiefs player, but don't know that we had that many other options on Monday Night Football. And you have a lot of other options out there for your fantasy, wagering, Draftkings coverage. So we really appreciate you spending time with us here on Seize the Gap Fantasy Football. Any questions, suggestions, comments? Did we help you with something? Did we screw you over with something? Let us know in the comments or on social media. Thanks again for checking out the show. You can find Seize the Gap Fantasy Football and our content wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Find us on social media at Seize the Gap FF and on the web at seizethegapff.com. Very simple and easy to remember, just like the flaps, FLAPS. Follow, like, and please subscribe. If you had fun, please remember to touch the thumb. I'm Magnum Mills, and on behalf of myself and Jamie G, we'd like to remind you to seize the gap and stop being so inefficient. And we don't care if you're old, you need to seize the gap. Dust yourself off and try again. You can dust it off and try again.